Wow, y'all. We just captured the president, sitting president of another country. Can we even do that? I'm gonna get into that and what got us to this point in this video. But just to start us off, look at this clip of President Nicolás Maduro of Venezuela after being captured by US military forces. This pic has been going viral because the man is wearing a Nike Tech. They took him out of Guantanamo Bay, and before delivering him to New York, he got into a Nike Tech. You can't make this stuff up. Just when we made the shift in the fall to quarter zips, now we back to Nike Techs because Nike Tech sales soared after this picture dropped. Y'all are so unserious. Now, to many of you guys, this sounds like it came out of nowhere, but this has been brewing for quite a while, for a very, very long time. In the case of the US versus Venezuela, and with the Trump administration personally in regards to Maduro's regime. For a Spark Notes overview, Venezuela has a lot of oil. I think from there, everybody can draw some very logical conclusions based on how the US has acted in the past with nations that had vast amounts of oil. But Venezuela's oil has also been its greatest asset and issue. Venezuela benefited a lot in the mid-20th century due to its oil. It was one of the wealthiest nations in the world. But their problem, aside from massive corruption, which is a very common theme with countries that have vast amounts of oil, but along with the corruption, Venezuela was doing what I would call oil maxing. And basically, they were going all in on their oil production to boost their economy and not diversifying in other sectors of their economy. So this meant that they would profit massively when oil is necessary. For instance, with the oil embargo of the 1970s, Venezuela saw a huge rise to their economy since oil was scarce at the time. But when the oil prices started to collapse like it did in the early 80s, Venezuela's economy took a massive hit. On February 18, 1983, when yesterday 4 bolivars could have bought you $1, it cost 6 to 7 bolivars to buy that same dollar. Everything instantly became more expensive. And this essentially was one of the two driving factors for the instability in Venezuela. They stay oil maxing. Remember that. Now, the second driving factor is what I mentioned before, corruption. But while there's always been corruption in Venezuela's history, for the sake of time and relevance to this video, we have to start at Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez became president of Venezuela after winning the election in 1998. He was beloved by many as the people's champ after leading a failed coup in 1992 against the then president, Carlos Andrés Perez. When he took office, he pushed an initiative called Plan Bolivar, which took a page out of Cuba's handbook over 30 years prior and aimed to take Venezuela's oil wealth and redistribute it to various social programs. Now, while the alarms of authoritarian socialism are probably ringing in your head right now, it gets much worse when audits reveal that huge sums of money were just handed out to the military to perform these tasks unchecked. Meaning they would come to Chavez and say, we need a mill to fix the plumbing in South Caracas. And Chavez would be like, I bet, and just hand the money and resources. They would send him inflated numbers for contracts, basically embezzling a lot of money while giving the people scraps. While this was the case, many people still praised Chavez because it was the first time that they seen money and aid being directly handed to the poor. And with 40% of your population in poverty in the year 2000, the little scraps of money that you provide would be enough to garner you support. But in that same vein, there were people who smelled the corruption and wanted to put an end to it. In 2002, some members of the government and military who disliked the corruption and consolidation of power that Hugo was doing led a coup to overthrow him. They succeeded in ousting him, but much like Venezuela's money management at this point in time, it was very muddy. The coup was very unorganized and wasn't structured at all. There were still many supporters of Chavez in the military and government, and especially in the public. It only took 76 hours for Chavez to return to power, and when he returned, this time he wasn't playing around. He also blamed the coup partially on US interference, and would even have these choice words to say about George W. Bush.
In my bad English, you are a donkey, Mr. Danger. You are a donkey. Me refiero, ustedes saben, para decirlo con todas sus letras, a Mr. George W. Bush. You are a donkey, Mr. Bush.
Now, the price of oil experienced highs, and remember I told you about oil maxing? Well, Venezuela was making hella bread between 2006 and 2008 due to oil demand, and with this newfound wealth, the social programs grew, but the corruption expanded as well, and the power continued to consolidate. In 2009, 3 years after winning his re-election, Chavez made it so that term limits were abolished, effectively setting himself up for complete and total dictatorship. In 2012, Chavez won re-election again. But this time, he was sick with cancer, and in 2013, just 2 months after his inauguration, Hugo Chavez dies. Prior to his death, he recommended our boy Nicolás Maduro in his stead, and shortly after, he won the re-election and became president of Venezuela. Chavez already set everything up for him. Maduro walked into that dictatorship like Lelouch did when he claimed the throne to Britannia. Unfortunately, for this period, Maduro was about to feel the brunt of Chavez's oil maxing and overspending. The price of oil dropped from $100 a barrel to $50 a barrel at the end of 2014. And with this, poverty, violence, and public disdain went up. One of the most detrimental forms of corruption that Chavez introduced and Maduro continued was currency control. They limited the sale of USD to only the government, forcing the people to exclusively rely on Bolivar and making them fully dependent on the government for wealth. Outside trading was fully restricted, so they had no way of obtaining any sort of foreign currency. When the price of oil ultimately dropped, the Venezuelan government was forced to print out Bolivars in order to pay for upkeep. This of course led to hyperinflation and all hell broke loose. The murder rate, while already high since Chavez days, experienced a peak of 60 murders per 100,000 people in 2014 and still maintains a high rate to this day, with nearly 20% of them caused by government and military officials. Almost all of these cases go unsolved. The US began to enforce sanctions, which started off with Obama in 2015 and really started to take shape with Trump in 2017 when he barred Venezuela from financial markets. Maduro's genius idea to work around these sanctions was to create a cryptocurrency called Petro that was, you guessed it, backed by oil. Sometimes you just gotta marvel at the commitment of oil maxing. This is just a whole new level. By 2018, the Bolivar against the dollar was millions to one. This forced Maduro to create a new currency called the sovereign Bolivar, which was worth 100,000 times the regular Bolivar. But it didn't take long for that to become monopoly money, and the Venezuelan people fell deeper into trouble. And to make matters worse, Trump was not done sanctioning. In 2019, he went for the jugular by cutting off all US purchase of Venezuelan oil. No more oil maxing. I know Maduro fell to his knees when he picked up that call.
Man, I fell down to my knees when the law came.
Over the next several years, Venezuelans would flee to neighboring countries in order to escape the tyranny. Maduro was literally picked up by US forces a couple days ago. In August of 2025, Trump had US naval ships stationed all around the Caribbean. And then towards the end of the month, they were like, hey, let's throw a few ships on the coast of Venezuela. I know a lot of y'all saw the news and thought this was random, but this has been planned for a while. The early visible steps started only 4 months ago. This leads to the question, can he just do that? Pull up and arrest a sitting president? Typically, no. The first and only time the US has captured a leader from a different country was in 1990, when the US invaded Panama and arrested Noriega. No, not that dude, this guy. This wasn't an issue though because Noriega wasn't recognized as the head of the country of Panama. He was more of a shadow figure that operated behind the scenes and had puppet presidents doing his bidding. Under international law, the head of a country is treated like an embodiment of the country itself, and therefore they're granted immunity, because if you arrest them, it's like arresting the entire country. But in this case, as I mentioned, Trump has indicated and painted the picture of Maduro being a criminal and likening him more as an international drug cartel leader under the guise of a president. And because of this, he's doing this as a form of law enforcement rather than an act of war. Now, as to why he was able to capture Maduro without congressional approval, that's because Congress can't do a thing, really, when it comes to whether or not a president wants to make a move. The War's Power Resolution allows the president to deploy US forces when necessary without congressional approval for 60 days. The president just has to notify Congress within 48 hours of making that move. Once Congress finds out, they go back and forth, bicker about it for 60 days. And if they can't come to a conclusion, or if they say no, then the president has an additional 30 days to withdraw. And a lot can be done in 90 days. So basically the president can do whatever the he wants in this window of opportunity. So what's next? Well, Trump says that the US will help facilitate a democratic transition of power and help to stabilize the country. But we've been down this road a few times, and Trump has a blueprint on what stabilizing a country looks like. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I know this is a lot, but hopefully I made it clear for you all. Do you think seizing Maduro was the right thing to do? Do you think that without him, Venezuela will finally prosper and return to holding a spot on the world stage? Y'all let me know in the comment section below. If you like content like this and want me to make videos like this, just let me know. Let me know that too in the comments. I would appreciate that feedback. Thank y'all, and until the next video, peace out.